Okay. Is there a possible link between tendinitis, tendinopathy from TRT treatments?
This is the TRT and Hormone Optimization YouTube channel. And if you want to learn all about the science-based information on this topic, consider subscribing, hit that notification bell, and you'll be on your way.
The short answer to that is yes. And it's a two-part answer. There's a direct effect and indirect effect. The direct effect comes from the increased collagen synthesis rate at which testosterone or all androgens assist with. This can help with repair, but it also will cause collagen to synthesize and be replaced quicker. So if you're deficient in your intake, you may actually cause a deficiency within the tendons. And this will make them less elastic and more susceptible to potential rupture. Now, remember, we're not talking about just complete tears or ruptures. We're talking about micro tears from excessive use, which often comes in exercise as well. And the body's natural response to a partial tear or any sort of an injury is inflammation, localized inflammation. And essentially the word tendonitis simply means inflammation of the tendon, right? When we put the suffix itis on any term, it stands for inflammation. And when we say tendonitis, we're talking about inflammation of the tendon, right? So the tendon will become inflamed as a result of injury. Injury can come from the direct impact of androgens on the collagen synthesis, and it can come as a secondary response to overuse. Because again, people now feel stronger, more motivated, more energized, more likely to hit the gym once they are optimal on their hormones. And this in turn is going to give you that secondary effect of potential overuse, inflammation, which is very common to see. Third, that I want to point out, this is more of a social / biological effect, which is maybe a tertiary effect of why androgen therapy may increase your risk for tendonitis. You have to consider that you may have been training for 30 years and you're now 50 years old. You didn't have tendonitis when you were 20 or 30, no matter how hard you went in the gym. You're now 50 years old. Now you're going on hormone therapy. Why? Because you didn't need it in your younger years. Now you say, I went on TRT and 6 months later I got tendonitis. Well, I'm still training like I'm 20, but I'm now 50. But in your mind, it's the testosterone that caused it, right? So you got to consider, what point of my life am I in? Am I more susceptible to injury due to aging? Yes. Am I more susceptible to injury due to the fact that I am now training more vigorously than I did prior to T when my T was low? Probably a yes as well. And then again, the primary cause is the biological impact on the synthesis of collagen, which may lead to more drying and less elasticity of the tendon.
Okay. And I guess non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs are not the solution at that moment?
Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, or NSAIDs as we call this class of medication in general, has several underlying issues. For starters, they are hepatotoxic, which means they are not good for the liver. Second, inflammation is the body's natural response to stress. So this can come from injury, micro tears. That is essentially what you're doing in the gym. You're causing micro tears. You don't build in the gym, you break down in the gym. You build when you eat and sleep. Your recovery is where you rebuild. It's the scar tissue coming back stronger than you were the day before. And essentially, when you are preventing inflammation, you're preventing the repair process. Okay, inflammation is the body saying, let's gather the troops and send more blood, water, and oxygen and nutrients to this injured area for repair. That's what inflammation is. So while we try to mitigate inflammation, and I know orthopedics love steroids and cortisone shots, which are anti-inflammatory, an anti-inflammatory response that is chronic, like NSAIDs, which is just a pill that you take, you're essentially telling the body, there's an injury over there and it hurts. Let's not give it what it needs to heal, but let's also mask the pain at the same time. NSAIDs are nothing more than a Band-Aid if needed. They're not going to help you heal. Okay. If anything, by mitigating the pain or preventing the inflammation, you're telling your brain, ignore this signal. You may go out and exacerbate the, right? You may go back in the gym and just aggravate it a little bit more. So essentially, I'm not a big fan of NSAIDs unless, there's a time and place for them. But for people who just start popping NSAIDs left and right, ibuprofens, Tylenols, et cetera, and whatever other pain mitigating medication, listen to your body. It's telling you there's a problem for a reason. So don't go and make it worse. Figure out how to prevent it. All right. Look into some of the chiropractic approaches like ART, which is active release techniques. There's Graston. There's all these, there's voodoo floss bands. There's all these ways to mitigate, via physical therapy and chiropractic approaches. There's these physiological ways to mitigate inflammation and localize tendonitis and whatnot. But you could also look at the pharmacological ways, and there are very good peptides on the market. Thymosin beta 4, for example, TB4. There's BPC 157. There's CJC 1295, ipamorelin, and a couple others that are essentially going to help with aid and recovery. But ultimately, it's going to come down to being smart, right? You got to say, okay, I'm now in a position to train harder. I make sure that I refuel properly and that I am not pushing myself physically beyond the limits before I'm ready, just because my brain is now in a better place. So be smart about it. Don't think you're 20 years old when you're 50. Train accordingly. We have a whole video on time under tension, slow and controlled movements, independent, unilateral, joint control with dumbbells, etc. We have a whole video on this. So educate yourself before you get out there and try to, PR your bench press.
Sure thing.